all my people. Yep, I did come on. Hey, Solomon, how you doing, sweetie? It's always good to have you here. And let me just say to you as we begin, I realize that a lot of the views that we have on this show, they're views with which you are uh, in opposition, or should I say, you disagree. But I want you to know how much I appreciate the fact that you come. I'm glad. I love you, and I appreciate that you're here. All I ask is that you and everybody else, I don't care where we fall in terms of our agreements, be kind. Be kind. That's all I'm going to ask. That's what I want. That's what we need because we are coming into a time. Well, first of all, the commandment is to love. Okay. So let's stay right there on that piece. Okay. All right. So I'm going to get you settled, Dr. LaShawn, and then we're going to get right to it. And does everyone know Jane Ruby from the League of Women Voters of Chicago? She's the president. And Sheila Garland. That's right. Mrs. Olanara. There we go. That's right. So she's a Mrs. Girl, would you take yourself off mute? And we're going to come up.
I didn't change my last name, so.
Well, I'm not mad at you. You can do what you want. Okay. So, everybody, we're all sisters here. Let's get to it. Sisters and daughters. That's what I'm saying. How about that? So, we're coming up in 30 seconds, so I can just keep it even. And thank you, Solomon. What did you say? Love, like, and share. Everybody, please love, like, and share. Help us with the algorithm. Help us with that. It turns out, as I look at some of our old shows, we get views in the millions, quite frankly. But as the show has grown, the algorithm gets jammed. You know how that goes. So we're coming up right now. Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It is a joy to be with you late in the evening, even though you'll be seeing us in the morning. We've got to talk about November 1st. What's going to happen November 1st? Well, we could see something that could be catastrophic. It will be. Because in order to prepare for the ending of these food aid benefits, the government would have had to have been preparing a year. Well, not. Let me start again. Not a year ago. We're gonna get. Hold on, everybody. Hold on, because I want to do it clean at the top of a minute. Da, 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 10, 5, 3. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Let's get down to business. A government shutdown is getting very real for a lot of people. And even if you don't get food aid benefits, it's going to impact you. 42 million Americans get direct food aid from the government. But the SNAP benefits actually put about $9 billion into the system. So be very, very clear. Many of us think that, well, this does not impact me, but it really does. It does. It impacts everyone. And when you pull $9 billion out of the system, think about grocery stores closing. Think about the supply chain being disrupted. Think about people in the grocery stores who won't have jobs. Think about empty shelves. Think about. Many of us don't think about this, but as I've been doing a deep dive on SNAP benefits, I said, wait a minute. I think we're not looking at this the way that we really ought to. There's much more to this. Not to mention the fact that there is a contingency fund that is supposed to fund WIC and SNAP in case of an emergency, like what we're facing right now. But the Trump administration is refusing to fund this WIC and SNAP. And that's veterans, that's our elders, that's children, that's people with disabilities. You can just keep on going down the line. If you keep on living, you will be one of these persons. And most people who get WIC and SNAP work, everybody. They work every day, but they can't make it from payday to Monday. So let's look at this. November 1st is the date. That's just in a few days. You already have government workers who want to work, who need to work because we need them. They are not getting paychecks now. You have someone who has given $130 million to a fund to help the military. Look, I believe that we need to honor every worker in this society. This is a civilian society, everybody. Civilian. You need only look to General Eisenhower, who became the president of the United States. General Eisenhower, who became President Eisenhower, refused to salute the troops. He was encouraged to do that. He said, no, this is a civilian society. I am now the president of it. And as a civilian president, I oversee the military. I'm in charge of them. They're not in charge of me, and they're not in charge of the American people. That's important for us to remember. So while I think it's important that our soldiers and our veterans get paid, but I think our teachers need to be paid too. I think the garbage workers need to be paid. I think that the hotel workers, everybody needs to be paid. No one should be elevated in this society because we all contribute to it. We need everybody. But let's talk about this, everybody. What will the suspension of these benefits mean? And are we looking at something else that's going on here? Because it just feels like while we're watching $20 billion off the top going to Argentina, off the top. That would pay for these benefits twice with $2 billion left over. I mean, the contingency fund is $5 to $6 billion. They need $9 billion in it. How are you going to give Argentina $20 billion? Maybe 40. Are you serious? What is that? And the check that we keep cutting to fight these wars. No, they're not even wars. We're trying to take people's resources. Really? Now, it might sound like I'm editorializing, but as I look at people who are hungry, as you walk out of the store and people need food, can you imagine going to bed hungry or walking around hungry all day? This is horrible. Have a heart. And just know that a lot of people, most people who work every day need some assistance. So, of course, we're going to find out about the psychological impact of this from Dr. LaShawn Latrice, a community psychologist, a retired teacher and community activist, Renee Criswell. What is it like to teach children who are hungry? What about that? With all the food that we throw away at the schools. Think about that. Sheila Garland Olanaran, the newlywed, who, of course, is with the Poor People's Campaign of Illinois. Jane Ruby, League of Women Voters of Chicago. She is the president. We're going to start, though, with Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, the mighty, mighty man of Alpha Phi Alpha. I know. You had to put that out there. I ain't mad at you. What is going on here? 25 states automatically are going to have to end these benefits. You have governors all over the country who are saying, wait a minute, please fund the contingency fund because we need to feed people. What is happening? What is happening? How will this impact us? Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds.
Well, Santita, it's great to be on with such amazing panelists. I think it's going to impact us as a country in a very significant way. There are many people who are living on the margins that are poor to middle class, even lower middle class, that are going to be significantly impacted. And at almost the worst time. There's never a great time, but when you think about Thanksgiving and you think about what it represents of families eating meals, people that don't ordinarily gather together to break bread together traditionally do during the holiday season. Thanksgiving is just historic for eating a festive meal. Well, they're not going to be able to do that because they don't have the funds to go grocery shopping and purchase turkeys and fixins and things to provide for those meals. So this is to me, outrageous. And anyone who has a heart they should be hurting for others that are going to be missing out on meals. And this is something that could be prevented. This is something that we shouldn't be facing in the wealthiest country in this nation, in this world, where we have people that are going to be hungry, people that are going to be without basic necessities. Children are even, we're talking about cutting, SNAP benefits. There are a lot of children that are going to be hungry. So I hope we can put a face to it. This isn't like, I'm glad you said that, Santita, earlier about this isn't just some people who are just sitting at home on their hands waiting for their welfare check or their WIC. These are even working people that are the working poor. There are a lot of people that are just barely making it, like you said, paycheck to paycheck. And so this is, I hope, a wake up call for the conscience of this country to say, hey, this isn't right. This is not the kind of America that we want to have. When we're funding wars, we're funding money to go to billionaires to give them more tax incentives and tax breaks, and we're doing other things to fund, a new wing of the White House. There could be money for everything, but taking care of those who really need it. So I hope that we all come together as a country, Democrats, Republicans, independent, black, white, Asian, that this should have no color or partisan barrier. This should be about doing what is humanly right and basic humanity and decency. And the worst part about it is many of these people who profess to be Christians are the people who are perpetuating these things right now, where they are the biggest hypocrites. They claim to love Christ, and then they don't want to follow any Christ-like principles and taking care of widows, taking care of the poor, giving to the least of them. Those are all biblical things that they turn a deaf ear and a blind eye on. So I'm hopeful that people of good conscience will stand up to not let this linger on, that we'll put partisan politics aside and be statesmen, do the right thing for the American people so that we don't have people without food on their table, people that can't pay their bills, their lights are off, paychecks are stopping for, many federal workers. Many people are facing unemployment. Many people are facing higher grocery prices and food costs and inflation. And so this is not a great time for many people in this country, other than the very wealthy and the well-off and the well-to-do. So yes, it's time for people to stand up and say enough is enough, that we need to end, we need to find some way to reconcile, to get money to those people to fund that so that they can purchase their groceries and food. These are necessities. These aren't luxuries. They got, like it's called, entitlements. People aren't going to buy a Cadillac or a car. These are basic necessities. This is about survival.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, it's self-professed Christians of every religious stripe. All
That's
of these
right.
people are in it. All of them are in it. Whatever religion you profess, you are not supposed to promote hunger. You've got Senator Josh Hawley, who voted for these draconian cuts, Jane Ruby. He voted for them. And now he's trying to promote himself as a defender of SNAP. I said, but you're the one who promoted the cuts. This is a horror. I mean, and as we're going into this election season, Jane, I'm hoping that the League of Women Voters I'm hoping that you all will be at the center of the debate system again. Because there's some questions that women maybe, we need to be asking. Because, I think, and I love men, I do, Representative Reynolds. But there was another kind of sensibility that was brought to the debate, debates when the League of Women Voters were in charge. But we need to have a lot of people in charge. A lot of people need to be participating in all of the debates and talking about hunger. I don't care what color you are. My father would say hunger hurts. Just, you don't put a party or color on hunger. Ouch. Ugh, I'm starving. Give me something to eat. And you're hangry. It changes your mood, all of that. Jane, what do you think about this? Because, I mean, we are now watching a big election in New York. People um, are getting very, very excited. Some people are very agitated about this Democratic socialist who's saying, wait a minute, buses, you ought to be able to get on that and not have to pay for it because your taxes are already paying for it. And even if you're not paying income tax, you're paying taxes on everything else. So everybody pays taxes, you guys. Everybody. Think about that. Jane, what say you? November 1st is looming large. It's this week.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for having me on again. It's really important to keep this conversation going because, this is urgent. We are in critical crisis mode as a country and how we're going to be moving forward. In a sort of another episode with you, the concept of, how radical it is to care about the sort of basic human needs is something that we really need to change as a country. Like the idea of caring about whether people have food, whether people can afford to send their kids to school, that schools are safe, that grocery stores are available, that that affordability is down, that transportation, all of the things that should already be kind of baseline compassion, what people have, we don't have. And when you have those conversations, you're too radical, that's too socialist, that's too communist, that doesn't fit where we're at. And I think there really will be a reckoning over what your morals and values are, what you care about, how and that reckoning is really the only way we're going to be kind of moving forward. It's a luxury to vote. I talk with a lot of people all the time about why you need to vote, why you need to register vote, why you need to, and people are like, it costs money to like take time off to go and vote. It's transportation, it's childcare. It is a luxury to vote in this country. A lot of people do not have that luxury. It is an afterthought, and it's a vicious cycle where voting is so inherently connected to the policies that affect daily life. But if it's a choice between living your life and being able to, and taking time out to vote, for a lot of people, that's they can't do both. And so I'm very much, I get accused of being too radical for, caring about this, SNAP benefits expiring at the end of this week. And it's like, no, we need to be making sure that everyone is taken care of. Like, there is enough money in this world for everyone to have their basic needs taken care of. And the super rich, these billionaires that are controlling everything, won't be affected. Like it's wild to me that the idea that when everyone is healthy and taken care of and prospering, that's good for everybody. It's really shifting that mindset, understanding, getting back to like empathy and compassion. Like it's always what other people have that you don't have. It's always like, no, they're taking, they're taking away this from me, or no, I need to have this. And it's, we can all, thrive. We can all, feed ourselves and our family and take care of our communities. Our schools, all of our schools can be safe places for children to learn and well-funded. Healthcare, we can have universal healthcare where people are taken care of and healthy and able to live their lives. And that's great for the economy. It's great for politics. It's great for community. We really need to have that sort of, moral reckoning in this country.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, and remember, the Department of Agriculture is legally mandated to release these contingency funds. This is what they are supposed to do. They're not doing it. And by the way, Sheila,
Yes.
the administration canceled the annual hunger survey, which we've been doing for the past 30 years.
I mean, you know, Santita, everybody, hi. First of all, it's always good to be on your program, Santita, because I think it's important to talk about, what is actually happening. And as you said earlier, let's dig deeper and see what is actually going on. Working with the Poor People's Campaign before Trump was elected, there were already 140 million plus and growing, that number growing, of poor people in this country already before Trump took office. There were 400 people a day dying directly from the impact of poverty in this country. As people have said, it's the richest country in the world, in the history of the world, although no longer. And the policies that have been put forth are an attack, a direct attack on the poor in this country. Why? Because if you have the workers of this country fighting amongst themselves for the scraps that are being thrown off the tables of the wealthy, you can pretty much do whatever you want to do, because we're going to blame one another instead of really looking at the systemic core of why this is happening. There is a system in place that generates and causes and creates this chaos and this propaganda and all of the horrible things that we're witnessing. If you can literally feed every single hungry person on the face of this earth from the money that's being amassed by these billionaires, why is there hunger and why is there poverty? And until we understand what is at the root, when I say we, I'm talking about working people, like you said before, Santita, doesn't matter, or I think Rep Reynolds said it, doesn't matter who you are. We have been so siloed by this very system that we can't get out of our silos. And indeed, much of the so-called 501c3 work that we do is funded by the billionaires, Bill Gates, Soros. Let's go down the list and talk about who funds us and why we can't get out of these silos. And what I'm saying to you is that we have to—
Wait a minute. As
deeper.
what Reverend Jackson says, you are not going to ride to freedom in Pharaoh's chariot.
You're not.
Yeah,
You're
so
just not.
I just have to put that out there, because I'm like, wait a minute.
Right.
You can't have a foundation funded movement.
You cannot. You just cannot. And that's the other layer. This system is very smart. They know history better than we know history. They know our history better than we know. When I say our history, I'm talking about the history of this country and the history of what this system of capitalism has done around the globe. I challenge all of your listeners to read the Jakarta method. You want to understand why there's so much chaos in this world and who's created and who's at the core? Read the Jakarta method. It will tell you how they use anthropology, how they use sociology, how they use geology to gain control in different countries, and then use terrorism and money to guarantee instability. Because as long as there's instability, which we're seeing in our own backyard, it is impossible to really look at what the core of the issue is. And I think a lot of people, I talk to a lot of people, and I'm listening to a lot of people, and I'm beginning to hear more and more and more people saying, it's just not right that these billionaires are controlling the political, will of the people. And I'm hearing more and more people saying, our immigrant neighbors are not the problem. I think you were saying that earlier, Santita, but it's all about the fight against the poor. Because why? Because this economic system of capitalism cannot solve the issues of poverty, and it will not. It just won't, because it's against their own interests to do so if you're amassing trillions of dollars on your behalf. So I just wanted to start out by saying that, but we already know that poverty is systemic. When you have 140 plus million people falling into poverty, this is not an individual issue. And the fact that the government, this particular government, is refusing, and we've seen this before. I mean, if you go back and study history, where people, the fight is turned on the very people who are least organized to fight. And that's why we have remained unorganized, because
if I may put this in,
Right.
if I may just jump in here a hot second,
Sure.
because we continue to allow ourselves to be divided. We come together over football games, baseball games, basketball games, fun stuff. American Idol, America's Got Talent. I don't even know what the shows are. We know when to come together, and we do that really well. But when it comes to someone who pulls out, I guess, the link card, you feel a little superior. Wick, Snap. What are they not doing? And, we do that. And the thing is, it's got to stop. The Bible does say that the poor will always be amongst us, but that's not just about your money, it's about a spirit. And we're going to have to grow up in our politics, because what we are doing, see, now everybody's going to have to deal with this. This is about to get very, very real.
Very real.
And for everybody. And maybe that is God's way, to help us, before I want you to finish before we go on to everyone else, because I want this to be a robust conversation, and I'm so glad that everybody's here to talk about this, Sheila, because I saw some old photos and people are sending me a lot of old things. My father was the mayor of Resurrection City in 1968, after Dr. King was killed. And these problems are still here, and I'm not seeing someone, except for Bernie Sanders, really run for president on a balanced Middle East policy, Israeli security, and justice for the Palestinians. Abby Phillips has a book out, and I saw a package on CNN this morning. People called me. They were like, "Oh, Lord, I was just hoping this was not an obituary." I said, "It's not." I said, "But my father's 84, and people know that he's getting up in age, and he has his health issues. But to have an acknowledgement there, and it's not just him, but I'm not going to take anything from him. He put his life on the line on all of this. Okay? And was willing to die on this. That is something President Carter even said about it.
Yeah.
He said, what? He said, I don't always agree with him, but he's always going to tell you what he believes. And you know what I respect about him? He is willing to die for what he believes. And he's willing to die for people. And I respect that. And so, wait a minute. What are we willing to live for? What are we willing to die for? At some point, wait a minute, Sheila, Jane, Representative Reynolds, Dr. Latrice, Renee, everybody ought to be able to eat. Wait a minute, my pastor, Reverend Clay Evans, may you rest in peace. I've never seen God make a mouth that God couldn't feed. Sheila, Jane, there's enough for everybody here. This is the first year that the population in the United States has not grown. It is shrinking. What happened? What are we doing? Is that the 400 people a day? What are they putting in the food that we're eating, Sheila?
Yeah. I mean, these are all pertinent questions, but I do want to, because you mentioned something that I think is really important, Santita. You said, why is it that people can't come together? And I want to go back to this point that
we're organized.
We need to organize, but
we're organized to be against each other.
To be against each other, exactly. And how we organize through propaganda. I'm going to say something that might be controversial, but I'm going to say when Clinton eliminated welfare Title 4A as we know it, who was this biggest help person? Who was the one that coined the frame individual responsibility and had a huge audience? Oprah Winfrey. Winfrey.
Now,
was the one who coined that phrase.
You about to put something in between her names.
Yeah, okay. I didn't say that. I don't know her middle name, so I was just trying to. I couldn't remember the middle name.
I saw that. I saw what you did. You said Oprah Winfrey.
But the point that I'm trying to make, she was reaching, and most of the large part of her audiences were our white sisters and brothers.
But wait a minute.
They were big. They were big.
And I've known her to fully disclose. I've known her since I was a little girl, because Reverend just helped her with her career. He gave her exclusives when she was a student reporter at Tennessee State University.
Yeah.
But they lifted her up, remember, to take out Phil Donahue.
Yep.
a progressive white man
Yeah.
who argued for peace,
Yeah.
against war,
Yeah.
to feed people, to acknowledge and put a human face on the LGBTQ plus community, and on and on and on. And then she came with some personal responsibility. It was conservative. And then they had to pull her off of that because black people started getting angry with her.
As
Don't you
and
remember that
rightfully,
part?
yeah, and rightfully so. But
Well,
I,
let me, I want to, but I
I'm going
need
to
to.
wrap up, but because I want other people to talk. But I want to say that when Clinton did that, 4 people in his cabinet resigned in protest against him ending welfare Title 4A.
Sheila, remember how conservative he was. I mean, I like him personally, but they sent Al Gore into the race in '88 to take out Reverend. Reverend took him out.
I
When
know.
Reverend didn't run in '92, he was the presumptive front runner. No one up until Reverend Jackson, no second place finisher had gotten as many votes as he had gotten. That's why when he was disrespected and not put on the ticket, he had to beg us to vote for the ticket because we were like, "Are you serious? Wait. You've been a top tier candidate 2 times, buddy. Are you for real?" And we got to vote for someone who looks like a nut in a tank. Remember when they had him? What? See, you weren't old enough, Jane. Honey, they had him. He could barely get his head out the tank. Remember that? Oh yeah. I love Governor Dukakis. Oh, come on now, for real? Yeah, I said it. And so no,
No,
no, Jane, bless your heart, because we had come off of that campaign and we saw him riding around in an open field with his head and with a helmet on. I'm like, oh, this is not even believable. Would you shut up? You are not. This is not PT 109. What are you talking about, Renee? What's going on? Oh, it's just so much for me. I'm going to have the vapors.
Well, thank you for having me on. I've been in agreement with everything that's been said by your panel. One thing I can say about President Donald Trump and Russell Vought is that they are on track to carry out their agenda. Unfortunately, it's an agenda that hurts people, but they said they would cause pain, and they're causing pain. They said they would cause pain to federal workers, and now we have a lot of federal workers standing in food pantry lines because they're not getting paid. You mentioned the effects of nutrition on students. Students need to be well fed to really engage at their best. They need to have food and not just the junk that they're going to have to get. When they can't get SNAP benefits, they're going to get the cheapest, lowest quality foods, what they can afford, and
If
that's
I
not
can,
good.
let me interrupt you here because I want to
Mhm.
ask this question, and I'm sure everyone on this panel can understand this. What is it? Because you're a teacher. What is it like when you are teaching someone who is hungry? I mean, do you know that they're hungry?
Right. And, I actually used to bring snacks for students. But at our school, we gave students, every child got breakfast every day,
Okay.
thanks to a program that they have in Illinois. So it's not as bad as it had been in the past where you had to pay for breakfast and sometimes students didn't have food. They know that children need to eat. One thing I would do for students before they took tests was to give them snacks. You need to focus on learning, not focus on the hunger pains that you're feeling, in your stomach. So what they're doing right now with the SNAP benefits that are probably going to be cut on November 1st. They're going to put a whole lot of people, including our most vulnerable, vulnerable people, our children. They're going to put them. Um, they're going to be in pain. And when people are hungry, you're going to try to solve that hunger. So, what's going to be the effect of people who are without food on crime? You're going to have grocery prices going up because
Mm.
businesses that depend on SNAP recipients coming in to buy food, if they're not coming in and they have, especially in neighborhoods like I lived in Lawndale or Garfield, where a lot of people who shop in the stores get SNAP benefits. If they don't have SNAP benefits, like you said earlier, you're going to have people who are unemployed. And some of those people might be the very people from those communities who will be without jobs. Food prices are going to go up. Food
But Renee,
prices are already going up.
Renee, hold on one second. I want you to finish, but let's engage for a hot second.
Mhm.
Everybody, can you imagine? You don't have to, excuse me, you can just walk into a grocery store. Pardon me. Can you imagine the grocery store full of hungry people? Now, you're not going to be real safe in the store. In the store, people are talking about getting out to the parking lot. Well, that's going to be open season on folks. But I'm saying in the store, Sheila and Jane and Dr. LaShawn Latrice and Representative Reynolds, you can't. Folks are going to be eating in the store. They're going to open up those bags and they're going to go to the. I mean, I'm not mad at you because hunger hurts.
Mhm.
It does. And the fact that this administration will not, and this is not a partisan thing. This is not, because there's some things I think that the government they need to just shut everything down. You should not be denying people food and health care. Now that's it. Now there ought to be some non-starters for all of us. Enough. The Department of Agriculture is mandated to release these funds to fund this program. They refuse to do it. But you're going to cut a $20 billion check to Argentina? Wait a minute. And you're killing the cattle farmers in the United States. We're going to import beef when we have beef right here.
Mhm.
All you have to do is go on TikTok and YouTube and you see farmers, white, black, it doesn't matter. They're like, wait a minute. One guy, Westmoreland, I really enjoyed watching him. He said, look, I'm not an FAFO guy. Mess around and find out. He said, that's not who I am. He said, but just admit, everybody. He said, and I'm not faulting you, but just know that you were lied to. Because Project 2025, there's a chapter on farming. And the president said he doesn't really support family farms. He supports what Bill Gates is doing, buying up thousands, tens of thousands of acres of land. And they're making, only heaven knows what, they're making this genetically modified food. And when they were wondering why we're sick. Who has ever heard of an apple without seeds? A grapes without seeds? Are you for real? Watermelon without seeds? What are you eating? What is that, Renee? Now I'm not a
What about
teacher.
the pill that he's putting on there, Santita, to make foods not spoil? What kind of chemicals are going into that? That's one of Bill Gates' projects.
Oh,
I
and
believe it's
wait,
called the pill.
absolutely. But wait, let me answer Solomon. Solomon, he didn't cut the check yet, but he plans to cut the check if he is elected. While he's looking at Americans in the eye, and he's telling them that I will not release the funds that are there to feed you. Now, enough. I look, and you know better. I'm not going to get sidetracked on Trump and whether I like him or not. Look. Personally, he's a nice guy. When you get up on him, he is. But I don't agree with what he's doing politically. I don't agree with what his people are doing, what his supporters are doing. I don't agree with any of it. It's not foreign diplomacy. You know, if you're going to do America first, Solomon, then do America first. Take care of Americans. Charity begins at home, and so does parity. Americans should not be doing this. The fact that you would even talk about giving $20 billion and 40 to Argentina while you are killing our cattle farmers in the United States, while you will not feed women, men, children, veterans, people with disabilities, that's who gets WIC and SNAP. It's everybody. Dr. LaShawn Latrice.
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Well, I mean, the impact of hunger, I mean, psychologically, I could only imagine.
It is, in not only in my personal life, just talking to people around me, but just talking to people as I travel, I move around and talk to people. People are horrified. The idea, the notion of not being able to feed their families is not only a traumatic experience, but it is one of those things, as a few people has said on this panel, to even put yourself in someone else's shoes who's not able to feed their family. It is something that grips your heart so tight that you can't even imagine, not being able to move in that respect. And then if you were able to put yourself in a position to think about how detrimental that is to families and children, it is something that is not even just traumatic for the people going through it, but those who are witnessing others going through it. I mean, even in the state that we're in right now, where things haven't been stopped yet. Just think about it. We go into grocery stores now, the prices are extremely elevated. I mean, I'm always comparing from one shopping trip to the next what has taken place. And I can only imagine if you are on a very fixed income when it comes to receiving assistance, how that is going to affect people. It's like it's taking people to make action. You know, I see a couple of people that I'm very close with. I see them coming up with collecting donations. They're asking for a certain type of donation to help families who are not going to be able to go to the grocery store. I'm loving that. I'm loving the way that people come together. But I also agree with you, Santita, when you were talking about there are other things that move people to act. And, you know, if we can come together and keep Jimmy Kimmel on the air, surely we can come together and do other things that impact us that are so afflicted so closely by these changes that are taking place. I'm still one of those people who are saying, I don't hear enough from those who say that they represent us. I just don't hear enough. I feel now like this is a time where there is silence. I every time I think about whether people have attributed things to a party or not, I think about people working across the aisles, and I think if this is not anything that's affecting those people personally, I know that there are very few distinct voices that are speaking up, but the bulk of the people are silent, and that is saddening and disheartening to me. I feel so bad for the one or two people that are speaking up that are getting pummeled every time they open their mouths. People are and people are not defending them. You know, and I hate to say it, but it's kind of a sad situation. And I think about how my father always said, "Oh, you'd make an excellent attorney. You'd make an excellent politician." You mean I'm like, "Daddy, no." I'd be like Rosa Parks. I can't do it. You know, and it makes me think about how many people made these promises to their constituents, to the communities, to the people that they represent, and now they're sitting somewhere silent. I don't know if they're biting their nails or if they're just lining their pockets. I don't know what's going on. All
You
I
know what
know
has
is
to happen? Because we have an elected official right here. Let me tell you something. This constitutional republic requires that we all get involved. You cannot just elect people and step back. Then you must lean in, even if you did not vote for them. You got to lean in. You got to show up at the office. You have to let them know because guess what? There are lobbyists
yes,
at the local, county, state, and federal levels and regional levels who are pressing on them whether they voted for them or not. We have to get real about how come on, this is how politics works. It does. He makes $600 a month.
mm,
I mean, what is that? He needs
right,
to make 60,000 a month. Disincentivize it. I mean, and that's just yeah. I think elected officials need to make a whole lot of money. I do. And then you disincentivize graft and grift
hmm,
because they're on call for you all the time. Just I mean, are you kidding me? $170,000, whatever it is that a congressman makes. Do you know that DC is one of the most expensive cities on earth? You are really programming the system to only elect people who are well off or wealthy.
right.
Otherwise, you can't afford it. Max Frost was elected; he had to stay in his office until he could save enough money to get an apartment. A basic apartment in DC that's near the hill is going to cost you $3, 4, $5,000 a month, and that's a studio or teeny weeny 1 bedroom.
Mm.
Are you for real? And then you got to buy something. Then you have to pay for something at home. We need to get serious about what it is that we want, and and we have to look at this a whole different way. But there was you really were making Representative Reynolds nod his head vigorously in assent. You were agreeing with her,
And I
Representative.
know he's one of the different ones too. So, I have had the pleasure
Oh
of.
no, I know. I'm just saying. I think we need to ask him how this works, Sheila, because wait a minute, we need to start calling these people because you made the brilliant point. If we could get up in arms about Jimmy Kimmel, that's all they could talk about on the news. But no one talks about the hunger, how hungry people are going to be, and what this is going to do to people. Sheila, no one's talking about it.
No, because that's the propaganda machine that we're
Absolutely.
distracted. I mean, who Kimmel has 50 million, he's worth 150 million dollars. I mean,
But,
come on.
and that's good. No, he tickles my fancy. That's great. He can make that. But you know what? Somebody else needs to make some money too. Okay. I'm not trying to take. Look, he can make his money. That's great because the people who he's working for are making even more. They're making 10, 100 times that. That's fine. I don't care about that. You know what I care about? In a few more days, people who needed a paycheck, who were already behind, they're not getting it.
Right.
That, however you get your SNAP or your WIC benefits, what do they load up a card or something?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, guess what? It's not going to be loaded.
Right.
And
Right.
even if with the contingency fund, they should have been doing this, they said weeks ago. So
Yeah.
even if they release the money tomorrow, it will take weeks for the monies to get loaded onto the cards.
Yeah.
People are going to be hungry this week.
Yep.
My God.
Representative Reynolds, what should we do?
Well, to the point that was just made about, Dr. Latrice was made about when, with respect to Jimmy Kimball. I mean, we were all engaged and we used our voice to put pressure. I think that the general public has an enormous amount of power if they wield it by doing things in masses and hidden people in the pocketbooks. That's why they brought them back, because they were losing shares. Disney was losing money and they were starting to lose major money. Target got rid of their CEO. And guess what? When people stopped shopping at Target because of their anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, they made substantial changes and got rid of their CEO. So the point I'm making is, it's the power of the people. The people have the power if they exercise it in mass mobilization. That was the success of the Montgomery bus boycott. And so I think that if we as American citizens will unite behind a common agenda, and that means that we may not line up on all the issues. I was one day we were on a show with you, Santita, and your brother, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, was talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, Congresswoman, who's very, conservative, but on issues that we were talking about with respect to healthcare, releasing the Epstein files and other things, we had agreement with. So we need to find people, even people we don't agree with, maybe philosophically, or they have different alphabets, different races, whatever. We need to have a common agenda around certain basic things like feeding people. That should be a basic human dignity, human right situation that all of us say, you know what, we may disagree about this or that, but we know we need to get these WIC benefits out, period, in the story. And I think we need to make some type of mass movement about that. Otherwise, this is going to come and go. And November the 1st is Saturday. Okay. And what's going to happen is it's going to be an immediate impact. We're going to see lines at food pantries. We're going to see lines, at basically probably churches and other organizations. They're going to run out of resources. So the private sector isn't going to be able to handle the demand for the lack of these nationwide impact of these cuts. So I think that we need to make our voices loud. People need to use their profile the way they were using it for Jimmy Kimmel, Facebook, social media, whatever, Telegraph, Parrot, whatever, facts, whatever everything is what I'm making to get the message out that this is America, where we believe that we feed those in need. We're going to have a lot of hungry people that are going to be in their dire need of food and nutrition assistance if we don't uh, take care of that. And Santita, I love what you said, that charity starts at home. I'm very given for what we do around the world, but if we can't take care of our own backyard, then really what are we doing, right? What kind of confidence do people have in this country if we can't take care of our own? It's like you're not taking care of your own family, your own kids, but you taking care of other people's kids and their families. Well, that may be nice of you, but your responsibility is to take care of your own. Well, the government's responsibility is to take care of their own citizens first. We're not doing that if we don't take care of this by November 1st. So I think there needs to be an immediate call to action. And wouldn't it be nice to see people united across racial, religious and political lines and saying, hey, we're coming together on this. We may disagree again tomorrow or later today on these other issues, abortion and whatever. But for this, we agree 100%. That's the kind of messaging we need to see.
Well, and I think ultimately, um, nothing, tough times can really unite people. And I think that's the upside of this moment, really, because you're going to see a lot of people that I've seen it in the course of my lifetime. Everybody, I'm going to come around and get some closing thoughts from everyone. Pain changes everybody. Jane, it changes you. When the comfortable are disturbed, and when you disturb the comfortable, things change. And this is what we have to really look at that, because we should be calling Secretary Rollins. She's the Secretary of Agriculture. You need to be calling her in the morning and say, wait a minute, you need to release this money. I mean, you've made the point, Dr. Latrice, that wait a minute, if we're going to get up in arms about Jimmy Kimmel, and on principle, that was alarming. But Jane, no one's talking about this food. And I just think it's a horrible thing for people to walk throughout the day hungry. Men, women, children, I don't care who it is. That's a horrible thing. Hunger can drive you crazy, and it does kill you. Jane, what are your closing thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there needs to be mass mobilization around this. This is an everybody problem. This is not, one person's problem. This is all hands on deck, the whole, in order to get out of this mess. I've been constantly thinking about the Phil Oakes song Power and Glory, and there's a line in it that, talking about America, that we're only as rich as the poorest of the poor.
That's right.
And so when we talk about, we're the number one country in the world, and, we have all of this power, that power is only there because of everyone, people going to work, people going to schools, people voting, people participating, people paying taxes, people understanding what community is. That's where we really sort of harness our power. And I think we're seeing that, especially here in Chicago on the community organizing side, like the outrage around what's happening in Broadview at the ICE detention facility. You're seeing protesters there every single day. None of us would know what was going on there if there wasn't a group mobilizing there every day, bringing some sort of spotlight into what is happening there. And I think out of all of that, we're seeing communities where it's like they're passing out whistles, and we're doing these mobilizations around protecting our communities, in the different neighborhoods around the city. And I think that sort of energy, that sort of mobilization, we need to see more of. We need to have all hands on deck. We need to all be exhausted with, how much we're putting into our communities, how much we're putting into taking care of each other. It is a full-time job being a citizen of the country, and we need to sort of understand that right and obligation that we have to each other and to taking care of the health and welfare of our nation.
No, that is a profound insight. It is a full-time job, Dr. LaShawn Latrice, being a citizen. It's a full-time job. And there are responsibilities tied to being citizens. Or we're sitting up here screaming about people who are undocumented. Are you registered to vote? Are you participating? This is participatory, everybody. You got to get involved. Dr. LaShawn Latrice, I'm getting a little bit from everybody as we go. Because I'm going to be talking about all these black kids who are not going to the Ivies now. They've been pushed out in big numbers. Big numbers. More black kids are at HBCUs now. Well,
Right.
I ain't mad at that, but
Me.
still, I
And
just it's being denied opportunities. But Dr. LaShawn Latrice, your thoughts?
my thoughts are, I just would like to implore everyone, not only on this panel, but people who are listening, to educate people about what is about to happen on November 1st. I've heard so many negative comments where people think these are lazy people waiting on free money. That is asinine to just not even understand. There are people who are living, they have children, they have jobs, they're disabled, they're seniors. There are so many different scenarios and different situations. And so, unless we continue to educate people and have these intentional conversations, people are going to continue to sit quietly because they think, oh, these are just the lazy people who just want free money. No, that's just not the way this works. And I am one of those people who, every chance I can, I'm having this conversation. There are disabled people. There are people who don't make a lot of money that need these assistance benefits. And so, how dare we sit and frown upon people? And also, let's pay attention. When we say mass mobilization, there's a lot of mass mobilization going on. But guess what? We can use some more people. We can use more people in every facet. There are some people who can be at home making phone calls. There can be people out there talking to the politicians. There can be people educating communities, having town hall discussions. But guess what? We got to keep in mind that we can't burn everyone out. Somebody has to tag somebody else and say, hey, could you all come in? Because what they're doing now is they're arguing about tearing down a portion of the White House while people are about to starve over here on November 1st. And I believe that smoke and mirrors conversation needs to be dispelled. We need to be talking about the important topics that's impacting communities down on the grassroots level.
But I mean, smoke and mirrors, absolutely. Because people are going to be evicted.
Absolutely.
Renee Criswell.
Hi. Not only will people be hungry and evicted, um, we have a president who's spending $250 million for a ballroom that nobody wanted. People are going to be very angry. They see the lavish spending going on in the White House while they're getting cuts to their health care and to their food assistance. They see people, their family members and friends getting laid off from jobs that were supposed to be secure jobs, and now they're thrown into lines to have to get food. You can be secure with your job and your food one day and the next day not have a job.
Mm.
And you're right in the boat, same boat as the people that you perhaps were looking down on. It can happen to anybody. And while we need to be calling our elected officials, trying to uh, persuade them, encourage them, demand that they do what they need to do to get the government open back up and to give these benefits to the people that are relying on SNAP benefits. We also need to spend some of our money helping some of these food banks so that
Mhm.
they can get the food necessary for the people who are in these long lines. We have to do what we can do too.
Well, I'm going to tell you, no one is lying here. It has been it has already been established that people are going to miss paychecks, which you cannot afford to miss. I'm glad you're back, Sheila, because I want you to give your closing thought. Um, so we're not lying here. So don't say that. When I
Oh,
was
I didn't
growing up,
say lying.
when you call someone, well, when you call someone a liar, that was like cursing someone. So don't do that. No
I
one's
didn't
lying
do
here.
that.
No, 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 no. It's over here. It's over here.
Oh,
People are
okay.
no, not you,
Okay.
not you. But
Yeah.
I'm looking. And Solomon, I hope no one is going to starve, but the fact is people are already starving. You act as if people are not hungry in America already.
Ready.
People are hungry. Yeah, just because you're not hungry, just because you're housed and clothed, doesn't mean that other people are not working hard and it's still not enough. Just stop. And I take it personally, Sheila, because I'm from working people.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
my parents, with Congressman Jonathan Jackson they were gonna put my parents out the hospital, put my brother who was dying at 11 months of age. He was dying. He had a viral infection that was a pneumonia that was eating his lungs. It ate a fourth of it. My parents had no money. And they said, there is nothing more we can do. You must take him home.
Yeah.
And this was in 1967, January. My parents haven't gotten over that yet.
Yeah.
So just stop. Don't do that. And I hope you never see a hungry day.
Mm-mm.
But you need to have compassion for people who do.
Exactly.
Sheila?
Yeah, and I thank you for this panel and everybody's comments. I want to say a couple of things in closing. I want to remind people that before this happened, there were over 140 million poor and low income people in this country, with 400 of us dying every single day. Poverty was the direct cause of their deaths. There was a direct correlation between their deaths and poverty in this country. Go look at the research on the Poor People's Campaign site. It's all annotated. It was all done. Like Dr. Martin Luther King used to say, you can be loud, but don't be loud and wrong. So we have to have our research and understand what's going on. I think the second thing is that we do have a lot of propagandized mythologies about the role of this country. This country is responsible for the deaths of millions of people over the years across the globe. They don't care if they go in to get your resources, whether you're going to have a road to get to your school or your hospital or whatever. I've been all around the globe, from China to Africa to South America, the Caribbean, everywhere. And you can visibly see the impact of the policies of the United States on these countries if you care. I was in Honduras when the United States helped to overthrow the duly democratically elected president of Honduras and took him out of the country and set up a puppet government in order to take back the gains that the Honduran people had begun to make. I sat at a table in a room with Dr. Castillo, who studied in Cuba, became a medical doctor, and set up the first and only hospital for the Garifuna people in Honduras. That now that the government that was put in place by the U.S. has closed. So let's be realistic about we can go on and on and on, Grenada, Nicaragua, because we can go on and on and on. But I think the point that I want to make is
Every place except Europe.
every place except Europe. But let's talk about, well, anyway, that's a whole other conversation.
Okay, no, because I'm going to wrap things up.
Yeah, but we're going to wrap things up. But I just want to say I agree with the sentiment that we do not have the luxury of ignoring what's happening right now with respect to the cuts in the food stamps and the SNAP program. But I do want to say that when Trump took office the first time, those of us on the northwest side of Chicago, we started organizing. That's when we first started organizing our rapid response teams, and we have only multiplied. We have come together to elect Delia Ramirez. We've elected Carlos Rosa. We helped to elect Gracelia. I mean, there are so many that have come from the organized roots of our community. And it's really important because now we have a conduit to have a broader leadership. When Delia calls for a town hall, you know, we get 500, 600, 700 people showing up. So it makes a difference to really think long-term and strategically, like Jane was saying. It's not about just working harder, but it's about being strategic. Trust me, that 2025, that plan, that's 40, 50 years plus of planning and strategy and built on a whole lot of historical precedent. If people want, you know, there are so many books that we can recommend, but to see how long this has been in fruition, this whole idea that government's only role is to serve the rich and that the masses of us have no rights whatsoever to any sort of common assistance or even a voice. So I'm saying, you know, we might not see elections if Trump gets what he wants.
But
Because
and
if he
and if
can declare, you know, then what
and
does
if the
that mean?
oligarchs, if they
It's
get
an
what they
oligarchy.
want,
They
because
get what they
the
want. So,
because if the oligarchs and the monarchs
yeah,
get what they want, because this is as old as time. We have to grow up in our politics, Sheila,
we have to grow
Jay,
up. We have
Renee,
to grow up.
Dr. LaShawn Latrice, Representative Reynolds. Either, you know, what did you say? It's a full-time job being a citizen, Jane. So you don't have the luxury of not being involved.
Exactly.
When you're not involved, look at what happens. You can walk down the street and ICE can
Snatch you off the street.
snatch you off the street or put you down and hog tie you.
And whether you're an immigrant or not.
Well, you know,
Literally.
we already went down that route. We tried to
Yeah.
tell people because they're snatching up good old white folks.
Yeah.
Okay. And the thing is, because it was never about color in the first place. Yeah, we racialize things in America. There's no question about that. But you know what? This is about oppressing people.
Yes.
And you need to stop being siloed.
Absolutely.
You need to be clear. White people need to be clear. Anti-Black racism is a real thing. Absolutely. Many Latinos present white. So they, you know, they can some people can slip and slide. I cannot. But the fact is, there are some white people who have been protesting ICE and they get tackled and they get detained. This is real. You saw they shot the pastor of the First Presbyterian Church in Chicago in the face and laughed.
And no.
So everybody stop. Get registered to vote. Get involved. Get involved. Get involved. Get involved. And you know what? Be very clear. It could be you. It could be you.
Yeah.
And if that, and it should be enough that it can happen to anyone else. But the fact that it could be you, I hope you keep your job. I hope you keep your pension. I promise you I do. But you know what? You never know. So please, everybody, let's start caring about each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, Solomon, it is insane. But I've seen the pictures. I've seen it. And I see the fear. I feel it in the community.
Yeah. Live in my neighborhood.
Look, live in mine. I live on the south side. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The fact is people are now scared.
They're scared.
They're not scared in Lincoln Park in the wealthy white area yet.
Oh, they were there. They were just in Lincoln Park.
Yeah,
and
I'm saying,
released tear gas.
I'm saying yet.
Yeah.
This is about oppressing all of us, everybody.
Yeah.
So stop getting picked off. Understand that as Americans, we need to stand up and we need to stand together. That's what we need to do. And let us save each other. Together, we can win. Divided, we are going to fall and fail.
Yeah.
Love you, everybody. Love you, my ladies. And I just love you. And I'm so glad that you've been here. Now let's you know, League of Women Voters of Chicago, we and Poor People's Campaign, Rainbow Push, we need to have a town hall. Let's think about that.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that. We really need to be a coordinated effort of our organizations.
Yeah,
Like,
let's do that.
We need to figure out what that looks like.
We need to have a town hall about this.
Mm-hmm.
Because they should not have another No Kings March without having some voter registration tables. And without having an agenda, it's not enough to talk
we
about
were
it.
we were registering people at No Kings. I will say that. But we need all hands on deck registering voters. We need all hands on deck in every capacity around this issue and about
Everything.
1,000 other issues. But I think we need to really figure out what mass mobilization looks like with these organizations, that we're in the trenches, doing the work, and how we can work together and amplify what we're doing and coordinate better.
But we can do it together. We can do it together. So let's get to it. Let us get to it, everybody, and let's make some soup so people can at least have a little something to eat when they get there. Make some big old pots of soup. That's what you do.
That's what you do.
That's what you do, and we'll make it together. We will make it. We will.
I'm going to put my number in our private chat, so if anybody wants to reach out about organizing.
Okay, everybody. I am running so late for my next thingamajiggy, and Dr. Malvo, I'm coming up right now. Everybody, I love you. AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Love you, love you, love you. And I'll connect everybody by text.